Right.
No trouble. Not easy.
So it has come to my attention
We're moving fast. How we
that I'll probably have to be pretty fast here. If I want to save both the delegates and stop Marchenko. So I think we'll just stock up on ourselves here. And then make a run for it. I suppose. Where do we want to go? Level 4. I don't know what the exact timer is, but I mean, at this point, I feel like it doesn't even really matter.
was easier than I thought.
If I find all the XP or whatever. Because, I mean, I'm not gonna spend it on anything interesting anyways, right? Since the game is gonna be over pretty soon. Okay, so let's look at the map. Oh, who's that?
Adam, it's me. That
Oh,
pocket
Alex.
secretary in Hong Kong. It went live a few seconds ago, just long enough to shoot out a message.
You
Okay.
intercepted it?
Yeah, but it's cryptic. Looks like meeting in session. Proceed with delivery. Key 2202.
2202. So I'm in the elevator on level 1. Where do I need to go? Level 2. This is where the delegates are, right? So that's VIP room, I suppose? Oh, that's what's supposed for. 2202.
As we consider the importance of
Don't
this
drink
moment
that.
on a national level, on a global level, on a humanitarian level...
Nobody drink. The champagne's been poisoned.
But I had it replaced. It's a cuvée de prestige.
You and your guests need to get out of Apex Center now, Brown. Slater's dead. Tarvos is compromised. They've come to stop you. Can you get everyone to the helipad?
Yes, yes, of course. My security team will escort us. But what about the other attendees?
TF-29 will evacuate them. I'm going after the people who did this.
Then you have a long way to climb.
McCready, I got to Brown, warned him about the champagne. His security team is getting him and his guests to safety.
Good that. Fucking Marchenko wasn't lying though, the residential...
Future Vision Cento, Rise of a Corpo Nation. By the 2020s, the Cento Group had become an all-encompassing multinational with holdings the world over. The most lucrative decision was to expand their interest into infrastructure construction and civil engineering, specializing in post-conflict areas and war-torn nations. Cento helped rebuild and rehabilitate critical human infrastructure in the Middle East after the pan-Arab invasion of Israel. They are helping Australia's attempt to recover from the civil war that has ravaged that country. However, those projects pale in comparison to the work being done by Cento in the wake of the Org incident. The worldwide network was perfectly placed to deal with the global catastrophe, and according to most economics pundits, the Cento Group has grown more in the last 2 years than its first 50 years. This despite the controversial decision to keep and even increase their augmented workforce. It remains to be seen what the future holds for a mega corporation whose revenues if converted to GDP, would rank as the 3rd richest nation in the world.
Towers are packed solid with explosives. If he uses that remote detonator...
I'm heading to the exhibition hall now to stop him. Get your team started on defusing those bombs. Maybe with a little luck we can pull this off.
Luck! We're both gonna need a shitload of that, mate. I'll see you on the other side.
The beer and all that kind of stuff has also been pretty useless, right? Get a little bit of health back, but yeah, I mean... Oh. Oh, secret door. Wait, is there anything else here? Where's this lead? Like, okay, where do I need to go now? So I need to go... Oh, wait. The exhibition hall, right? Can I go, like, through here and then take these stairs? Yeah, I can. It's probably the best way of doing it. Rather than going back through the reception or whatever. Wait, where was the... secret door? No. Wait, what? Did it close again? Yeah, yeah. Wait. Oh, I'm here. Okay. Oh, okay.
Why have you not come? Is your faith in hypotheticals truly that strong? Apparently not. You have made the right choice, brother. Why should so many die so loudly, when a far more subtle message can be sent? To achieve my mission, I only need Brown and his guests to die. And you, of course. Now show yourself!
Boring. Oh, yeah, no. What a boring antagonist.
I do not fear death,
Sure.
nor do I revel in it.
Tough talk a
Brother.
little more.
But for some I am told that it can be a relief.
What's happening with the hand?
Tonight, one of us will find out if that is the truth.
Okay. So I need to kill him non-lethally somehow, right? How do I do this? How about I just go invisible and shoot at him a fair bit? Does that do anything? Yeah. Oh, there's drones as well and shit. Okay. Well, that's not so good. Also, does this count as activating alarm? An alarm? It probably does, right? Yeah, I was just saying like, boring antagonist. Because it's... I mean, one antagonist he reminded me of, but like not in a good way. Because that one was like interesting and multi-layered. Is Letho from Witcher 2, right? Was also like a big dude, very muscly, kind of brutish looking. Also bold. Looks a bit like Marchenko actually. But without the ogre, of course. But Letho is like everything that you wouldn't expect from looking at him, right? He's exceedingly smart. At the end of the game, oh, spoilers for Witcher 2, by the way. If you don't want to hear spoilers for Witcher 2, maybe just stay away till I'm back in the fight. Okay, so at the end of the game, you realize that you've basically been played by Letho the entire time, and he's always been one step ahead of you. And he makes a point of explaining that, like, his oafish looks are kind of working to his advantage, right? And no one expects him to be as intelligent as he is. And then you have this long conversation about him where you finally, like, you get to the realization that actually, I mean, he's a dude with his own motivations, and He's been doing his job more or less, and in the end you get to decide whether the fact that you worked against each other for such a long time is due to the fact that he's a bad guy, or he's just, you know, he's had a different agenda, but he's not like, never had any personal problem with you or even what you stand for to a certain degree. And you two might as well just go different ways now, right? Because the conflict is kind of like the conflict between Geralt and Letho is kind of resolved at the end of the game, and you can just say like, yeah, all right. I mean, good on you. You played me for a long time, and you actually did a good job at that, and you like partly reached your goal or whatever, or maybe not. But now we don't have any motivation to fight against each other anymore. And then you can fight him, like if in case you feel like you need a boss fight at the end of the game. But you can also just say like, well, actually, there's no point now in us fighting. And yeah, Marchenko is just like, yeah, he's about as brutish as he looks. And it kind of bugs me especially how this whole, like, I've talked about this in the last episode, but this whole, like, is violence to a certain degree sometimes justified to resist violent oppression? How that interesting conversation got, like, dumbed down to there's this bad dude who wants to kill innocents. I don't know. Let's fight him. Also, I would like to know more about, like, the Juggernaut Collective and meet them and know more about Alex's background and stuff. I don't know, all of that.
I have other things to do.
That didn't work. What kind of weapon does he have? Looks interesting.
I am so glad you could make it, brother. You have proven yourself to be a worthy adversary. A man who would willingly
God, that cringy dialogue.
sacrifice himself to protect so many lives.
Also, what do we have? I have the Tesla thing. I could use that.
Running out of places to hide.
Not enough ammo. Well, we can change that. It seems to stun him for a little bit, right? So that's good. But then his drones attack. Alright, I need to find a way of doing this. So how do I... Okay, let's do this smartly, maybe.
Watch for the debris.
Does he see me? Hope not.
I am so glad you could make it, brother.
Oh, shut the
You
fuck up.
have proven yourself to be a worthy advocate. A man who would willingly sacrifice himself to protect so many lives.
Hua hua hua, I'm evil. Hua hua.
I thought you would be man enough to face me.
does this lead? Like, can I find like a security computer and just shut off his drones or whatever? Where's this go? Nowhere? Well, that's underwhelming. Okay, there's a vent. Two of those, it seems. Oh, there it is.
We are not so different. You and I.
We are not so different. Oh god.
We have our priority.
Anomaly detected.
What the
I mean, if the story was written better.
Initiated.
thousands of it.
Access granted.
Maybe that could be a cool line, but as it stands, that's just like cringy. I'm 14 and this is deep material, right? Also, what's
Are you still here?
robot domination? I guess we can put a point or whatever in robot domination. I mean, I could have him attack him, but then I'd lose my pacifist, right? Sean, there are... Okay. Did this before. So what...
Can you hear me? Come out! Do you think Brown cares about what me? About us? The only thing...
A lot of grenades. I mean, I could also throw, like, lots of... poison grenades at him or whatever. Why can't I shut off the drones? Or is there like a terminal downstairs?
The longer this takes, the more people die, Chinese.
No, I might want to load this.
I will be waiting for you. Are we having a good time?
Inventory full? That's preposterous. Put it somewhere else. I'm not out of biocells, am I? Just the one stack's down.
Move to low sweep.
So I guess I could put the turret somewhere where it can't do any damage.
Hold patrol. What are you up to?
I'm not even here.
The longer this takes, the more people die, China.
Oh! Some laser here.
Proceed.
Oh, so they see that. Yeah, maybe I don't want that. It avoids my no alarms triggered or whatever. They see me if I carry the turret around. I mean, that makes sense. That should render it pretty irrelevant. Okay, so what do I do? I mean, I guess I could Tesla the drones, right? Would that destroy? Ah, that doesn't destroy them, does it? Only shuts them down or whatever. Okay. Well, that helps for a little while.
People like you and me. A strong will.
Okay, need more. I hope this eventually takes him out. I don't know though. Praxis kit. He's not dead, is he? Nope, good. We do it? Might still not get Foxius or the Hounds, I'm not sure. Because I think the drones saw it.
Greedy. It's over.
Now we got the smooth operator. Yep, sure. Prague 1 week later. So that's the game, I suppose, right?
Santo CEO Nathaniel Brown took to the stage today to praise Interpol and Tarvis security services for thwarting what could have been a major terror attack during his Safe Harbor convention last week. Interpol has confirmed that a group of radical terrorists linked to the Augmented Rights Coalition wired the residential towers surrounding Apex Center with enough explosives to destroy 2 city blocks. As shocking as that fact turns out to be, Brown had only this controversial opinion to give.
We must not make rash decisions based on fear, nor should we allow a vocal minority to dictate our future.
Oh, Alex is there.
The Human Restoration Act is a perversion of all the United Nations stands for. In time, I believe saner minds on the Security Council will prevail.
Strong words from a man with an even stronger bank account. Let us see if his prediction proves true. This is Eliza Costello.
Hey, are you even listening to this?
Live
We won!
from Pike.
Did we?
We completely disrupted their plan. Marchenko, the Orchid, the bombs.
The plan.
We've been under too long, man. Time to come up for air. Take a breath. Janus messaged me last night, said Brown's been lobbying like a champ. He and the people you saved know the act isn't a solution. Picus will talk around it as long as they can, but that thing is finished.
Janus always seems to have the inside track. Except when it really matters.
What are you thinking?
How many more plans do they have in motion? How many more soldiers like Marchenko are waiting for the call?
Don't call him a soldier. He was a thug, man. Soldiers have a code of honor. Honestly, I'm surprised you let him live.
Didn't expect to have to make another choice here. Moralize.
The first of its kind in the world will be a haven for augmented people. A stable and self-sufficient hub of creativity.
I mean, yeah.
Based on the principles of arcology, the blending of architecture and ecology.
Wasn't my place to play judge and executioner, Alex. We should be concerned for every life, no matter how badly it's been lived.
Once a cop, always a cop, huh?
Regardless, we want the men behind him. Behind the Human Restoration Act. The ones still out there in the shadows. It's time for me to start pulling them into the light.
Well, now we got names. Manderley and Page. The collective won't stop until we bring these guys down.
Yeah? Well, there's one more name I want to put a face to. Janus.
So that's what you've been chewing on. Look, I'll try, Adam, but I already told you he doesn't like meetings that aren't on his terms.
Then give him a choice. Either he sets up a meeting, face to face, or I find him myself. I think it's high time we met the man behind the mask, Alex. Don't you?
Mm-hmm. Oh, we do get to see him. Okay.
Possible in Prague last week. A break-in at the most secure data archiving facility in the world.
Oh, info got out.
According to rumors circulating the
That was
internet,
me.
forensic computer experts were invited to examine the Palisade Property Bank's lava wall defenses after one of its account holders reported an unusual data retrieval delay. No word yet on which account holder filed the report, or what information, if any, was
All of
accessed.
them.
Palisade Bank Corporation owners released a statement earlier this evening, claiming that any rumors of a break-in at our highly secured facility are just that, rumors. Between you and me, folks, I think they doth protest too much. A coroner's report released in Prague today offers shocking new insight into the death of Dr. Talis Rucker, former leader of the Augmented Rights Coalition. Apparently, the primary cause of the doctor's death was the exceedingly high level of alcohol found in his system.
Before and after.
No other toxins were present,
Sure.
nor were there signs of any suspicious activity. Sources close to Rucker tell me he had been struggling with alcoholism ever since becoming a public figure. I am sure I do not need to remind you folks that the organization he founded, the Augmented Rights Coalition, has been linked to last week's horrifying terror attack in London. Augmented terrorist Viktor Marchenko, whom law enforcement officials describe as being instrumental in the planning and execution of devastating violence in London
Polizei.
this week, is being moved to a secure facility for questioning. A long-standing member of the Augmented Rights Coalition, Marchenko has been very outspoken about his motives for the attack, claiming it was appropriate retribution for injustices suffered by the Augmented. I do not know about you folks, but there is only one question I really want the answer to right now. When will the United Nations
I mean, they were
pass
kind
the
of
Human
close
Restoration
to
Act
telling an
so that
interesting
dangerous
story,
killers like
right?
Marchenko can no longer
But I feel like they
terrorize
just
us?
fell short.
It seems not so long ago that Dr. Talis Rucker was on this very program, trying to convince all of us that his Augmented Rights Coalition was a non-violent organization. Today, of course, we are all a little bit wiser. It did
Wiser?
not take long for ARC to reveal its
Liver
true
if
colors once
wiser.
Dr. Rucker was dead. Since last week's attack, the United Nations has officially labeled ARC a terrorist organization.
Yeah, sure.
As we speak, brave state police officers in the Czech Republic are raiding ARC-controlled compounds inside the Udalek complex. Here is an example of the defiance they are encountering.
This is where you have it all wrong. Wrong. Ark was afraid.
Oh, that's
You
so
people,
cool.
You don't see, you don't realize that Viktor Marchenko was not Ark. He was trying to kill Ark, kill the cause. But he has failed. We are strong, we are innocent, and we will not be used as pawns by rich, scared men who want to make us less than human.
I am sorry, young man, but methinks thou doth protest too much. The Diwali criminal organization is
Did
under
you just read
intense
Shakespeare,
scrutiny this evening for their role in the
Eliza?
London attack. Evidence
For
uncovered by
methinks
Interpol
thou dost
indicates
use
that
it,
high-ranking
that
members of
praise
the
too
chapter
much.
in Prague supplied weapons and logistical support to
Also, what kind of
ARC
ending is
terrorists.
this? Are we just watching a newsfeed
Among
now?
those being sought for questioning is Radic Nikoladze, leader of the Diwali's Prague chapter. Sources close to the man tell me, however, that Nikoladze has gone off the grid, and it is unlikely he will ever be found. An indication of guilt, perhaps? join the online discussion and let us know what you
No
think.
thanks.
News out of Paris today, where a sharp rise in illegal underground publications may have links to a prison escape recently orchestrated in Prague.
Oh.
Last week,
Okay, so we
Czech state
do
police
get
were
our,
holding members of the
like, all our
underground
actions
news group
reflected back at
Samizdat
us. I guess
on
that's
charges
neat.
of disturbing the peace, human trafficking, and media terrorism. The radicals escaped their holding cells,
Media
however,
terrorism,
and
what
are
even
believed
is
to have
that?
subsequently made their way deeper into Western Europe. Shortly after their escape, a radical publication called Silhouette began appearing throughout France. Has Samizdat rebranded itself as Silhouette? I am sure you will agree with me on this one, folks. No matter what name these people go by, there is nothing more dangerous than the spread of false news. Turning our attention now to a more colorful story. A recent incident inside an illegal underground drug laboratory has led authorities to the heart of Prague's Neon operation. According to sources familiar with the new drug, the dangers of Neon had more to do with illegal distribution methods and criminal ties than with consuming the drug itself. Make no mistake, folks, Neon is illegal, and the dismantling of this laboratory is good news for everyone. However, some government officials have hinted to me that the drug may have therapeutic benefits, and if so, a government-approved version of Neon could be made available to the public eventually. Further testing will be required, of course, so only time will tell.
As long as some megacorps can make a lot of money with it, I suppose. It's fine. Right? Directed by Jean-François Dugas. Oh, that's right. Certification to the franchise and the work you put into? Okay. Yeah, that's right. This game is not... It's Canadian, I think, specifically Eidos Montreal, right? You get to see all the dudes. Yeah, man, I don't know. Solid. Well, not a solid, but let's say a 7 out of 10. Gameplay was fun enough. I think it didn't help the game that I spent so much time being super thorough. To be honest, so maybe I got an unfair impression. But I did get bored of the game quite a bit in the end. Just spent too much time in it, I think. Especially considering that, like, being so super thorough didn't really pay off. I mean, we got a couple of extra praxis kits, which was cool, I guess, but the money never really came into play, right? I mean, literally the only stuff that we bought were the 2 praxis kits in the beginning, I suppose. Also, the neuropathy never really came into play, except for like 1 or 2 quests, and then the info broker at the beginning. We had like 40 neuropathy or something at the end there. So yeah, and also, I mean, the exploring didn't reveal like so many cool like little secrets, like, you know, little hidden stories or quests even. I was a little bit with like the emails you found, but I mean, even that wasn't so spectacularly well written that it like made me feel like my exploring really paid off. I could have really just like rushed through the game a lot more without missing anything of value, which is kind of a shame. But yeah, as I said, like, the game had a couple of strong points. Some of the side quests were pretty neat. The gameplay in general is pretty fun. But it just, like, fell flat after a while, which, again, might be my fault. I spent too much time on it, maybe. And the biggest weakness is obviously that while it lays out an interesting world and an interesting conflict on a ground level, I think it never really fulfilled its potential. Fulfilled the potential the story had. First of all, because there were I mean, I don't feel like there were any really interesting characters in this game. And then also, I mean, the conflict itself, I'm kind of disappointed how they wrapped it up in the end. The whole dynamic between, like, the Juggernaut Collective and Ark. Like, Talos Raka was maybe the most interesting character in the game. And they killed him off right after you meet him. Like, have Talos Raka, like, wrestle with the ethics of oppression and violence. Like a person who's, like, genuinely a good person at heart, but maybe eventually comes to some wrong conclusions or whatever. That would have been interesting. Marchenko wasn't interesting in any way. Especially since he was just, like, basically a plant from the outside, right? He wasn't even, like, genuinely making a good faith argument for enough is enough, we need to fight against the oppression. Or what do we get? A little bit of extra tidbits?
That's not the point.
Who's that?
You should have all been informed.
That is why we are here now.
Volkart. What's done is done. The broad strokes of the operation were very clear and haven't changed. There are always adjustments that will occur in the field. You should know that.
Adjustments? Those were not mere adjustments.
Interpol was more capable than we anticipated. They have a new augmented agent by the name of
Adam Jensen,
who we believe may have had external help, possibly by the Juggernaut Collective or even Janus directly.
we're looking into it, but we...
All that is speculation at this point. Let's find out more and reconvene later this week. Thank you, everyone. That'll be all.
It's your own fault.
Oh?
I'm aware of that, Doctor.
Ain't that
Elizabeth sends her regards.
Elizabeth?
Report.
Overall, the subject seems quite well adjusted despite the massive traumas he's experienced, and his memories are still consistent with the program. He is remarkably stable.
Excellent. How close is he to contact with Janus?
Very.
And it's only a matter of time.
Wait, who are these guys? Obviously not the Juggernaut Collective. But Olara was working for them. Interesting. How close is he to contact with Janus? So we're talking about Jensen, huh? Yeah, okay. What was I saying? Yeah, I don't think Marchenko was particularly interesting, or the way they resolved that at the end. It would have been more fun. I mean, it would have been a more fun story if they, like, what's up with that whole angle that TF-29 and especially Miller were just setting ARC up to be a terrorist organization. Wouldn't it have been way more fun, like, as a story, if we found out more about that, and if we, like, explored that angle more, or even if we'd gotten to decide, like, at some point in the story, whether we want to stick with Janus more, or if we want to stick with TF-29 for, and then the story splits up, and you get to see, like, different, like, last thirds of the game, or whatever, and you either learn more about Janus at the Juggernaut Collective, you work more with Alex, you find out more about TF-29's shady practices, and eventually even go up against them, maybe, right? Or you decide to stick with TF-29, because maybe there is a genuine element in ARC that wants violence for reasons that might be understandable, but it's still the wrong thing, and therefore you decide to stick with TF-29 because you know, well, some of their practices might be shady, it's still the right thing to do to keep up the order and whatever. Right, then you stick with TF-29. You maybe anger Janus and the Juggernaut Collective and Alex, and kind of come into conflict with them and with ARC in the end, but with a much more charismatic arc figure than Viktor Marchenko. Maybe with a figure like Talos Raka even. That would have been a much cooler. That would have been a much cooler game. They could have done like so much more cool stuff with what they've got. I mean, yeah, and not to mention that I mean, it's not that I disliked the discrimination angle. I think they did a generally a good job of portraying that. It's just that I'm not convinced that that's the most likely or even a particularly likely outcome in a world like this, is where the augmented are actually the oppressed in the end. I might be totally wrong here, but I feel that, like, looking at the way the world is right now and at our history and the role of technology, is that access to technology has historically been a privilege of the wealthy that has perpetuated their power, right? I mean, the digital divide is a very real thing in the world now, where being connected and having access to technology and the internet and to information is something that perpetuates certain like power dynamics and structures and structural wealth inequalities and stuff like that. So if you have access to, I don't know, smartphones or whatever and other technology, you'll have access to the internet, you'll have access to a lot more information, which will help you, like, stay in a position of power. And that's like on a worldwide scale. Access to technology has always generally been a good thing for those that had the access. So I feel like a future where augmentation becomes almost imperative if you want to keep up with the modern world, right? Enhancements to your vision or to your strength, to your cognition even, being connected to an entire network of augmented people, maybe even remotely, that seems much more likely. And then either those who can't really afford good augmentations or no augmentations at all will be left behind. And there's maybe like people who have like shoddy augmentations done in back alleys and they don't have like proper access to neuropazine, and that's where inequality comes from. I mean that would have been like a much more believable scenario to me in a degree. And it's also more like the scenario they seem to paint in Human Revolution, actually. They kind of changed course on that a little bit in this game. And that's what I found, like, that's another thing I found more interesting about Human Revolution, right? There were obviously, like, those that pushed for augmentation hard, and there was a tendency of the non-augmented to, like, get left behind, but then there was also these super fundamentalist Christian groups who argued, like, for the sanctity of the body and God's creation, and you shouldn't do that. There were, like, a lot more, like, interesting and believable conflicts in that game, I think. So yeah, I'm not saying that it couldn't happen, like that there's at some point like a real backlash against technology and some kind of ultra-conservative right-wing forces or whatever triumph over the let's just read this. In memory of our friend Maxime Saucier. Oh, he died during the development. Was gracious and friendly and never without a smile. Maxime was an inspiration personally and professionally. His sudden passing touched our hearts and our lives. His joyful life will not be forgotten. His optimistic outlook will continue to inspire us. From your friends and colleagues. I was like 30 years old, damn. Okay, what was I saying? interesting stuff the game could have done. Yeah, I feel like in the real world there's like a more natural alliance between like ultra-capitalist, ultra-globalist, ultra-pro-technology forces on the one hand, and then maybe like ultra-conservatism, like nationalism in a way, super religiosity, and anti-progress, anti-globalization forces on the other hand. I mean, that seems to be a conflict that unfortunately might end up dominating the politics of the next decades. So this like eerie mix in Deus Ex Human Revolution between, on the one hand, the ultra-corporatism on the one hand, and on the other, the absolute anti-technology, anti-org stance, that didn't like make a lot of sense to me. Right? Like, wouldn't it be one or the other? Like, I'd like either you'd be like an ultra-corporate state that like supports or is like controlled by corporations who earn like a shitload of money with augmentations, and then you'd be pro-org, or you'd be like ultra-reactionary religious nuts. We don't want any technology in our bodies. And like Prague was like a weird mix. I mean, maybe that made it complex in a way, but I don't know. I didn't feel that was explored enough to be very believable. Oh, what's this now? Is that just the fan club? Yeah, tons of things to say. I mean, it's an interesting scenario, and the idea of augmentations is pretty cool. I just think they could have like done so much more with the idea. So like some of the side quests did some interesting stuff, but that's about it. Like the thing with the murder mystery and the implanting of personalities and stuff, that was like slightly interesting at least. At the end I just didn't care about Ark and Victor Marchenko and TF-29. Alright, I think that's all I gotta say. I'm uncertain if I should even like play this again for the achievements. The highest difficulty, you know, the permadeath one. I know you can probably like breeze through this game quite fast now that you know where you're going, and if you like ignore all the side quests and exploration and stuff, just focus on like the cloaking system, but I don't wanna, I don't think. I'm gonna look for something else to play. Well, anyways, thanks for watching. Of course, I'll let the rest of the credits run here. Thanks for listening to me ramble and rant about this game. I still had a decent time, but you know, I liked the predecessor a lot more. And with that, I'm gonna shut up, let you enjoy the music and the rest of the credits. Have a good one. I'm out. Bye bye.